I am going to start school next week, or I will start school next week. Which one is the correct one? Hello everyone, my name is Ehab and this is English in 10, where we talk about English, we practice English, and hopefully in 10 minutes we try to learn something about English. The topic for today is future tense. How do I express something that I'm going to do in the future? Well, normally in English we do this in two ways. We either use the verb be going to. For example, next week I am going to take a trip. Or we use the word will, which is another verb. It's an auxiliary verb. Now, there are differences between both of them, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on in the first part of the video. Towards the end of the lesson, I'm going to start focusing a little bit more about how we can express future time in different ways. So, let's go to the board. When we talk about future tense, there's usually two ways that are most common ways to express something that's going to happen in the future. One of them is be going to, and then the other one is will. Now, even though Americans use these interchangeably, there are some differences, and generally speaking, native speakers do adhere to these differences. So let's take a look at this. Whenever we use be going to, usually implies that there's some kind of a plan. Plan means that you made some decisions about something that is going to happen in the future. Now, the future can always change, we know that. But plan means that you're actively doing things and preparing for something which is going to occur in the future. For example, I am going to travel next month. Think about when you guys travel. There's a lot of things that you have to prepare for. In most cases, you have to get a plane ticket. You have to decide where you're going to go. You need to decide where you're going to stay. Are you going to stay in a hotel? Are you going to stay with possibly friends or family members who might be living in that area? And also another thing that you need to decide is what are you going to do when you travel? So lots of preparation here, and that's why we use be going to. Another thing to always be careful with is when we say be going to, there's always a verb be, and I need to, as always, as I always point out, watch out for that subject, because that subject is going to affect that verb. Another example, Sarah is going to begin her new job next Monday. Again, when you start a job, there's lots of things that you have to do beforehand. You have to apply for the job. You have to go for an interview for the job, and the company that you hope to work for needs to accept you and make an offer for employment before you can start any kind of job. So lots of planning here. Sarah is going to begin her new job next Monday. Again, notice the verb be changes. If we say Sarah, if we say she or he, got to change it to is. Now, let's say that I change it to they. Then we have to change the verb be once again. They are going to take an exam tomorrow. An exam. Always some preparation before an exam. On the teacher side and on the student side. Student side has to prepare, they have to get ready, they have to study for it. And then obviously for the teachers, we have to schedule a time for the exam, and we also have to create the exam as well. So lots of planning here. These would be three examples of where we would use be going to, because there's some kind of plan. Now, if there is no plan, if you are making a decision which happens really, really quickly, all right, something that we call spontaneous action or willingness. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's say that I walk into a room. It could be classroom, it could be a room in a home, and I say, this room is dirty. I will clean it. The reason I say I will is because there's really no planning involved. I make a decision, but I make it very, very quickly. Let's say I'm having a conversation, A and B. I'll be B. A says, I'm cold. And then I say, I'll get you a jacket. The reason I use will is because, again, it's a spontaneous action. It happens really, really quickly. Now, instead of saying I will, a lot of times in English we put them together, which we call contraction, and we say I'll. Another dialogue. A says, it's warm in here. So let's say we're in a room and it's kind of hot, a little bit stuffy, all right? It's warm in here. Then I say, I will open a window, because again, I make a decision very, very quickly. So in English, when you are trying to express something which is going to happen in the future, generally speaking, we use be going to, or we use will. Now, there are other ways that you guys can express future time, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay, there are two other ways that we can express something which is going to happen in the future. If you want, you can use present progressive, the verb tense, or as some people call it, present continuous. As long as there is a specific time in your sentence that lets us know when it's going to occur in the future. For example, I am flying to New York tomorrow. If you say tomorrow, it's okay to use that verb tense. Tom is teaching a class tonight. Lisa is driving to Nevada later. So keep in mind, it's very important to have these words here, because if you don't have these words, it has a different meaning. If you just simply say, I am flying to New York, that means now. But if you say, I am flying to New York tomorrow, that's different. And again, you can use the other verb tenses. You can say, I am going to fly to New York. If you want, you can also say, I will fly. So there's different ways to express it. Now, you guys can also use present tense. But again, we need a specific time, and usually we only use present tense for future when something, when you are talking about something that's based on a schedule. So if you are talking about schedule, something which opens, closes, begins, starts, ends, then we can use this. For example, the store opens at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Very important. I need this word. The plane arrives at 10 p.m. tonight. The new class begins next week. And again, other ways we can say it as well. The store is opening at 10 a.m. tomorrow, or is going to open, or will open. All of those would be acceptable. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the conclusion. All right, everyone, here's the conclusion. Again, I put some sentences on the board. I have the verb here, and we have to decide how are we going to complete it. Are we going to use be going to? Or are we going to use will? Or are we going to use some of those other verb tenses like present progressive and present tense? So let's go one by one. They blank to a wedding on Saturday. Now, for this one, I would say be going to. They are going to go to a wedding on Saturday. This seems like a plan. Remember, for a wedding, somebody needs to invite you. And it takes lots of time to prepare for a wedding. You have to accept the invitation. You have to plan, what you're going to wear. So, a lot of planning involved here. This is a dialogue. A says, this bag is heavy. B says, I will help you carry it. Remember, if you guys make a decision and it's very, very quick, then usually we use will. The class blank next month. Now, anytime you are talking about a class, there's always some kind of plan. So you can always say is going to end. But you can also use some of those verb tenses we talked about before. You can simply say is ending next month. Also, this is a schedule. Remember, with schedule, you guys can also use present tense. The class ends next month because we have next month. So again, 3 different ways to express future time in this sentence. Sarah blank a book in 2022. This seems like a plan, especially if we're going to talk about the following year because we're 2021 right now. So is going to write. So again, when we are planning something for the future, we want to use be going to. If you guys are making a quick action in the future, we want to use will. In other instances, when we're talking about schedules, you guys have a lot more options. We can use be going to, we can just use present progressive or present continuous, and we can also use present tense as well. All right, guys, I hope you learned something today. Until the next video, keep speaking and keep talking English. Bye.